Hey guys, what's up? This is Surge236, and this is the first episode of a line of episodes I'm planning on doing on my favorite free-to-play games. And I was actually planning on doing these all in one episode, but I changed my mind, and I'm doing these one at a time so I can get more in depth into what each game is. And the first of these games that I'm doing an episode on is League of Legends, which is, I'd probably say, the most obvious one of my list. It's the one that everyone knows of, everyone's played. For those of you who haven't, though, I'm going to go into a little description here. League of Legends is a game where, first of all, you have to pick a champion, which there has to be at least 100 champions now. They each have their own specialized abilities, they each have their own specialized passive, their own specialized look, and they each have skins, which this is sort of the thing that, like, premium content, you can buy skins, but you have to buy it with real money. If you don't want to use real money, though, or for skins, you have to use real money. For the champions themselves, you get influence points for each game you play, and you can build up those influence points to buy new champions. Otherwise, you just have to use each week they have different free champions that you can play. There's like 10 of them, and you get to just whichever one you want to play, you can play them. But at the end of the week, you lose them. So yeah, take advantage of them while they're free, and then if you like it, buy it. If not, whatever. But anyway, once you've picked a champion, you go into one of three different game types. The first one's called Dominion, and I'm going to be doing this in the order of which one's the most popular. Dominion's the least popular one. Basically, you start off with, it's a 5v5 match. You got five champions versus five champions, and you're in the middle. It's basically, the map is a ring, and there's all these paths in the middle, but those are just like, they're there. And in sort of a star pattern around this circle, there are capture points, and based on how many capture points you own, you slowly drain the points from your, like, each team has 300 score on it shows it on the top of the screen, and based on how many points you own, you drain the score of the enemy team, and if they get to zero, you win. So basically, you want to have as many points as you can possibly have, and yeah, inside this map, there are all these different little, like, they're like these little swirling tornado things. If you run through them, your character gets increased movement speed for a little while. That's effective. There are all these little health points all over. If you pick those up, you gain health. And at the very center of the map, there are two little, I guess you could call them beacons almost. And there's one for the enemy team and there's one for your team. And if you capture this, you get a shield. Essentially, just like, I think you get a minor health boost and you get a shield that just makes it so that you can survive a little longer in combat. Pretty effective buff, but the, there's a fog of war in this game that if you're inside the fog of war, the enemy team can't see you unless you're like within their sight radius or they have a ward set up. And the center of the map, where these special buffs are in Dominion, are constantly viewable by both teams. Like, there is no fog of war here, so if you do go in to capture it, they will see you and they will probably try to stop you. But yeah, that's essentially the overview of the entire map. Yeah, capture the points. You capture the points. You drain points from the drain score from the enemy team. If it reaches zero, you win. And yeah, there's those buffs that I was talking about. That's basically the entirety of the map. The next one is Twisted Tree Line, and I'm actually not 100% sure how the new Twisted Tree Line works. I know enough about it, though, to give you guys a good description of it. I know they just redid it, like, a week ago, and the new one's a lot better than the old one. You guys are lucky if you're just joining in now, because there's actually another game type you guys can play. Before, everyone played on the third one I'm going to get to later, but now some people play on this Twisted Tree Line, and essentially, it's a 3v3 match. You get three champions versus three champions. There are two lanes. There's two lanes. There are two turrets in each lane, and then there's another turret that's defending your nexus, which that's the way this game works. You have to push past the turrets on each side, on the enemy side of the map, and you have to make it to the enemy nexus and blow it up. And if it's destroyed, you win. And spawning from each nexus are your team's minions, which will just move along the pathways, like the two pathways I mentioned earlier, and they'll just help you push, because the towers in this game, they do massive amounts of damage, but they will automatically target minions if they're within range, unless you're within the tower's range and you attack a champion. So yeah, kind of a little bit complex there. So it just takes some time to get used to remember all this stuff, but yeah, basically, there's also, in between the lanes, there's just like this jungle area, and in Twisted Tree Line, there are these two capture points on either side of the map that if you have them both captured, you get a major boost to your attack damage and your ability power, which is you do more damage per each hit with your champion. And also there are these little camps that minions spawn in. These are a lot more effective for what they call jungling, which is essentially the way champions work. If you kill a minion, you gain gold and experience from that minion. If you're just standing near a minion when it dies, you gain experience. So laning champions will be standing in lane. They'll gain experience from the minions. They'll kill as many as they can. They'll get some gold. Jungling champions will go into the jungle and they will kill these groups of minions that are in the jungle, and they will use this for their gold and experience. So it's kind of just like you gain enough experience to help get a boost, and the people in lane get experience for a boost. And the reason this works is that if there are multiple champions nearby a minion when it dies, it splits up the experience between the two of them. So this kind of like makes it so that they level up faster, and it's an effective strategy that most people use. And yeah, it's essentially, and also on this map, there is a super minion at the very, very top that you have to be really high level in order to actually take him on. His name is Valmaw, but if you manage to kill him, you gain a buff that basically boosts everything about your champion: attack damage, health regeneration, just everything. And it's really good at making that final push to take out the enemy Nexus, and it's just effective like that. And also, I guess I should probably mention this: champions, with the gold that they get from farming minions, they can go back to their shop, which is at the spawning area. That's like where they started at the beginning of the game. And if they go into the shop, they can buy different items that boost their stats, like lifesteal, which is like they gain life for each attack they throw at enemies. Spell vamp, which they gain health for each spell they throw at enemies. Health, which is just health. Armor, which blocks attacks, and magic resist, which blocks spells, just that sort of stuff. If you guys want more in depth there, or if you have a question about it, post something in the comments and I'll try to answer it, because this is I don't want to say it's a complex game, but when you're first hearing about it, it's a lot to throw on you at once. So yeah. Anyway, moving on past Twisted Tree Line, the one that's the most popular and everyone plays, it's a really fun map. It's just what made League of Legends what it is today. It's Summoner's Rift, which it's a lot like Twisted Tree Line, except there's 5 characters and 3 lanes. So yeah, you got the 5 champions per team, you've got the 3 lanes that you're fighting along, and the basic way this game works, it's the same way as Twisted Tree Line basically. You have to push your way past all the towers in the lane, and this is actually something I forgot to mention in Twisted Tree Line. At the end, if you make it into the enemy base, which of the base is inside the wall, which is around their nexus, there will be an inhibitor, which is just like this little tiny, like, I guess it's just a structure really. It's the one thing that isn't a nexus and not a tower. And if you destroy this, then when your minions are spawning from your nexus, it'll also spawn a super minion, which is just like a really high health, really high damage minion, which is good at helping finish up charges against enemy towers. It's just really good at that, especially if you can get it early game, because those things have like a set health. So if you get it really early, then they're really hard to kill by the enemy team. Although late game it's not as much of an issue. So yeah, keep that in mind. It's a pretty good for building for when you're planning a strategy. But anyway, you essentially just use your 5 champions to push your way to the enemy nexus, same as Twisted Tree Line. But basically, the one thing I can really say that makes this a more widely used map, the jungle is much more, I guess, in-depth. Like in Twisted Tree Line, there's just like 3 groups of minions, not a big deal, and then you got the 1 super minion at top. In Summoner's Rift, first of all, I guess, actually, before I go into this, the first thing I should say is that the laning is pretty much exactly the same as in Twisted Tree Line. You got the 2 group. You basically just, like, you've got the champions. They're in the lane. They're fighting over minions. They're trying not to get killed while they're out there. They use the turrets to defend themselves, that sort of stuff. In the jungle, you've got groups and groups of minions. First of all, you've got the blue buffs, which there's one on each side of the map. And if you kill the minion that's carrying this blue buff, you gain an aura that reduces the cooldown of your spells and increases the rate of your mana regen. So it makes it so you can basically just like spam out spells a lot faster, really effective on most champions. And you've also got the red buff, which if you kill the minion that's carrying it, you gain that effect. And first of all, It makes it so that your auto attacks slow down enemies. So just like if you hit them, they go a little bit slower. Not much of an effect there, but it also sets a dot on them, damage over time effect, that they take a little bit of damage, and that can be really effective if you're going in for a gank, which is what junglers are basically meant for. They'll just like from the jungle after they think they farmed up enough minions, they'll go from the fog of war. They'll just like jump out of nowhere and they'll kill the people in lane. And every time you get a kill, you gain it's basically the same thing as killing a minion, but on a much higher scale. You get lots of experience, lots of gold. It's very, very effective. You want to kill as many champions as you can, as fast as you can. That's basically the point of the game. And anyway, there's also beyond these. There's also other little minions that are just like pointless. They got rays, which just like they're rays. If you kill them, you get like a little bit of a health. You get a little bit of health, and you get gold and experience. And they've got golems. They've got wolves. They're all just like regular minions. But the more important ones, in the very middle of the map, along the river, they have the dragon. Which, if you kill him, you get a global. Everyone on your team gains 150 gold, which it really stacks up. You want to get Dragon whenever you can, and especially since he's not all that hard to kill. He's just like you need to be somewhat high level to get. I would suggest being around level 6, but it's not all that hard. And then there's Baron, who you have to be a lot higher level to kill, but if you kill him, he's essentially just Twisted Tree Line's version of Vilemaw. You get a buff for your entire team that it makes you just more effective in combat overall. It's really good at making that final push. And yeah, anyway, that's the overall generic sense of the game. If you guys have any questions, post them in the comments. If you want to see some deeper descriptions of champions, again, in the comments. I will be back next week to tell you about my next favorite free-to-play game. But yeah, this was Search236. I'm talking about League of Legends, and yeah, see you guys next week.